about politics. So if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I'll do my best to give you a great answer. This is not the show for fighting about politics. This is not the show for arguing or debating. This is not the show where I call people up and I yell at them for having different political beliefs than me. This is the show where you can ask anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can be like learning a new language because there's all these different three-letter agencies and people's last names, and we're just throwing around terms like reconciliation and filibuster. And if you don't know what those words mean, or you don't know who these people are, it can be really difficult to be up on what our government is doing. So that is what I am here for. I'm here to answer all of your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they about, just generally about government or what our government's currently doing. I am here to answer your questions. So yeah, this isn't the show where I fight people. I don't call people up just to yell at them. Television Man says, "Who do the Democrats keep losing? Do you mean why do the Democrats keep losing? And also, they don't lose all that much. They lose about 50% of the time." K119 says, "Can I join? I don't typically have people up, but stick around, ask a question, prove to me that you're here in good faith, and maybe I'll change my mind." Put it in the chat, K119. Drake J. Weitzer says, "Is there a donation goal to make you stop streaming? $1 million, and I will stop streaming." So yeah, everybody, welcome to the live stream. My name is Jarrett. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics. And yeah, this is not the show where I fight with people. I don't debate people. I'm not here to argue. I'm just here to answer all of your good faith questions. And I don't care if you're further to the left than me or further to the right than me. I'm going to answer your question regardless. You don't have to worry about if your question is going to make you sound like a MAGA person or a libtard. I will answer your question in good faith either way. Maybe you're somebody on the right. You've always wanted to ask a question to someone on the left. You'd be like, "Hey man, I heard that you guys dance in the woods covered in the blood of the innocent," and I can be like, "Oh, that's actually not true." Or, like maybe you're somebody who's like firmly anti-Democratic Party and you wonder why somebody who's supposedly progressive would want to associate with the Democratic Party. KJ says, "Why can't Trump be stopped? He's broken multiple laws." Because the people who would enforce those laws, number one, they have a lot of power, and so they have been running defense for him. Like the Supreme Court has been running defense for him. Other Republican politicians have been running defense for him. Now that he's president, he's virtually immune from legal prosecution. Like there is a Justice Department memorandum that says that sitting presidents can't be indicted. But then when he was out of office, the Supreme Court ran cover for him, and it made it really difficult and the entire right-wing news media ran cover for him, so it made, holding him accountable really difficult. Let's see here. Asher, I saw your message. Sorry I haven't gotten back to you yet, but good to see you again. Alexa, Alex, good to see you again. Says, "What other countries' politics do you admire?" Nothing specific. I just like the more, progressive countries that have fewer billionaires and actually take care of their citizens. Television Man says, "Recently, why have the Democrats struggled?" So Television Man, that is a massive question, and thank you for asking it. There's a bunch of reasons why Democrats perform worse than they should in elections. One of them is that the electoral system in our country is skewed to favor the Republican Party. The Electoral College, gerrymandering, the Senate map all give massive advantages to the Republican Party in getting elected. The information environment skews in favor of the Republican Party, where all of the information spheres are owned by billionaires who are incentivized to push certain narratives that hurt the Democratic Party and help the Republican Party. Centrist news organizations water down their negative headlines around Republicans to make themselves seem more impartial, and they overhype their negative stories around Democrats in order to seem more impartial. Republicans have more money available to them than the Democratic Party does. And what else? Also, the Democratic Party is a rainbow coalition, so it's a lot harder to organize a group made up of a million tiny groups as opposed to the Republican Party, which is much more of a monolith. There's just recently there has been, an unprecedented amount of right-wing propaganda that is convincing people to either not vote or to vote for Republicans, and that is a major part of it. Alrighty. Let's see here. Ego says, "Wait, do you have any young photos? You're so pretty." What a creepy question. Kenny says, "Think us non-wealthy will learn we have the power and stop fighting each other." I mean, that's part of what I'm doing here, Kenny. Maybe you would like to join. Maybe you'd like to join me in the struggle, my man. Maybe you'd like to do some of the work to actually convince people to vote Republicans out of existence. Michael Sparks says, "Is the rule of law gone?" Not fully, but it is definitely in jeopardy. Irish Page 3 says, "The big bill passed and Republicans voting were gleefully happily. What is wrong with them?" They're generally pretty bad people, Republican politicians and Republican talking heads. I have a lot of empathy for Republican voters. Like, they got tricked, they got conned, but the people in power know what they're fucking doing. The billionaire class knows what they're fucking doing. Ben Shapiro knows what he's fucking doing. So I don't think that we need to, mince words around that group of people. They're shitty people. They're bad people. Let's see here. But Asher says, "What do you think about limiting campaign contributions to $200 by humans? No PACs, unions, etc." That sounds pretty cool. I don't really have like, a set, you know, list of campaign finance policies besides like overturning Citizens United. But so yeah, I'm open to all that stuff. Let's see here. Palantir Pantopticon 1984. I'm extremely worried, especially because in the big beautiful bill, they have allocated a 360% increase in ICE's budget for rendition, for deportations, for detaining, and also for surveillance. So that should be really concerning to every single human being in this country. I'm Nick says, "How is this helping you? How is what helping me?" 443V56 is, "How do we get into politics?" I say start small. Like pick a news roundup podcast, a daily news roundup podcast that you can listen to. You might not understand everything that's going on, but slowly you will pick up the language of what people are talking about, who the key players are, and then maybe you could, eventually read things that are a little bit more dense, like The Economist or something. Michael Sparks says, "Do you support the big bill?" No, I do not. Jorge Velasquez says, "I think they also gave AI tech firms legal immunity for 10 years as well." I heard that the Senate parliamentarian stripped that out of the Senate's version, but I could be wrong about that, Jorge. No said, "Read a big review on rent control yesterday. I'm super concerned about Mamdani now. Thoughts?" My only concern about Mamdani is the fact that the billionaire class is going to keep coming after him. Like they're going to smear him. They're going to use their power and their money to try to torpedo his agenda. I'm not worried about his agenda being unfeasible or unreasonable or difficult to implement. I'm just worried about how the billionaires are going to try to fuck him. And I hope that if you're watching this from New York and you like Mamdani, to recognize that the fight is not over. I thought the fight was over when Obama got elected, and so I just was like, all right, sweet, I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. But the work continues, guys. Amber says, "What about the judicial review issues?" Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Supreme Court decisions that have come out recently have been, you know, carrying water for the Republican Party and Donald Trump, and it's extremely, extremely concerning. But yeah, I mean, more specifically than that, let me know what you'd like to know, Amber. Jesse Mearn says they're already talking about revoking his citizenship. Elon. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's Mamdani. Yeah. They're talking about yeah. It's a fucking nightmare, guys. We're living in the worst timeline. Michael Sparks says, "Do you think it will pass?" I don't really do predictions, Michael Sparks. If you don't like it, call up your representative and tell them to vote against it. Tell your friends to do the same. Start a political action group. There's a group called Indivisible that helps people do that. Like they have a whole handbook published for how to start your own political action group. The Real Heisenberg says BBB passed. Yes, in the Senate only though. J-Lock says, "Is Trump going to send stimulus checks?" Mostly no. Amber says, "The items in the bill that said they couldn't hold him in contempt," that I know was actually stripped from the Senate version. It violated the Byrd rule, which says that if you want to pass something on reconciliation, it has to only have to do with, finances and spending and stuff like that. Let's see here. Signed MCS says, "What's your political affiliation?" I am a Democrat. Let's see here. CA Alex CA says, "Should political leaders be held to higher moral standards than citizens?" I don't know. That sounds dicey. I really don't care what somebody's like I don't know, like what their dating history is or like what they're into in the bedroom. But as far as like the things that they pass, the things that they advocate for, the things that they try to accomplish, the things that they say in the public sphere, I think they should be held accountable for that. And this is the part of the show where I mentioned that Democrats are held always by a much higher standard than Republicans are. And that's part of the reason why they don't win as many elections as they should. Beetlegeese says, why would you think voting someone in would be the end? That's really dumb. Beetlegeese, the thing is, I don't care for that kind of language on my live stream. What we do here is different. What we do here is we relate to people on a human level. So can you understand why a much younger version of me would vote in a transformational candidate like Barack Obama and think that that meant that everything was going to be great and that we're only going to be going up from there? But yeah, I don't think that that is an unreasonable thing. People have lives to live, and people's focus is not 100% on politics the way that mine is, because I'm very interested in the topic. So yeah, but also just take that attitude to a different latitude, my guy. White Cheddar Max says, because in theory we're supposed to be able to trust the government. Yeah, we are. Yeah, White Cheddar Max, that is another really good point. Jerry Toff1 says, why do we have to be Democrat or Republican? We treat politics like a team sport. So, Jerry, I object to the way that you framed that question, because there is a difference between the platform of the Democratic Party and the platform of the Republican Party. There's a difference between what Republican politicians do when they get in office versus what Democratic politicians do when they're in office. There's a difference in how they speak. Republicans lie, way more and way bigger than Democratic politicians do. So to say that because you identify as a Democrat or a Republican means that you're treating politics like a team sport, it just doesn't track for me. It feels a little cynical. Where can't I just agree with the platform of the Democratic Party? Yeah, that seems a little myopic in my opinion. But I'll say this: that it is true that the billionaire class does create narratives that they then spread on the internet to get us to fight amongst ourselves. I do not believe that my enemy as a Democrat is a Republican voter. I do not believe that my enemy as a progressive Democrat is centrist Democrats. And I do not believe that the enemy of the Republican voter is immigrants or trans kids or Democrats or reporters or doctors or scientists or whatever. I think that our enemy is all the same. It is the billionaire class and the Republican politicians that are working in league with them, and the Republican talking heads that are working in league with them. Jerry Toff says most of the richest counties in the United States, vote blue. Jerry, that does not mean that Democrats have more money or are more involved with the billionaire class. That is unrelated. Well, excuse me. Carlos says, can you elaborate on the Big Beautiful Bill Act? What is your opinion? So, hold on a second. Meme Collector 46 says, Dems are the problem. They're all the same. First of all, you spelled "they're" wrong. Second of all, you're also wrong about that. If you're here in good faith, I will engage with you and prove to you why that is an inaccurate thing that you said. But I'm not just going to be here to fight with you, my man. If you continue saying things like that, then I'm going to block you. Carlos, so the Big Beautiful Bill is basically a massive transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. It makes massive cuts to government programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, subsidies for green energy. It adds taxes on green energy. It adds subsidies for fossil fuels. So we're going to have less green energy, safe, green, clean energy, and more dirty, dangerous, more expensive fossil fuels. And they're doing all of that in order to justify a massive tax cut for the billionaire class so that the billionaires can have more money and they can buy even more private jets and lobster and gold and diamonds and mansions and yachts and shit like that. I was literally just listening to a podcast about this today, so we'll just go over a couple of specifics from the Big Beautiful Bill Act. 17 million people will lose their health care, both in Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act. Hospitals and drug treatment centers are going to close down, especially in rural communities. Doctors and scientists are already fleeing the country. There's going to be work requirements on getting Medicare and Medicaid, which is just going to be a bunch of paperwork that people that are maybe disabled are not going to be, as able to complete. It reduces subsidies for healthcare, so our costs are going to go up. Everybody's costs are going to go up. Yeah, there's going to be increasing the amount of money that we pay for energy. There's going to be brownouts. Almost 2 million jobs will be lost. Yeah, it's going to take a massive amount of power offline, and it's bad. It's a bad thing. Nick says, should we pay less taxes? No. The 99% should pay less taxes. The top 1% should pay more taxes. Helen says, why so many questions about the big, beautiful bill? It is so freaking logical that the poor will pay. Not everybody knows about the big, beautiful bill, Helen. There is a big difference. The breakdown in political ideology in this country is not necessarily left and right. It is more like people that pay attention to politics and people that don't pay attention to politics. So that's what we do here. There's no dumb questions here on Ask Me Anything About Politics. You can ask me anything that you like. Rev Tribution says the richest people are Democrats. They hate Trump because they paid more in tax in his first term. That is inaccurate, Rev Tribution. Let's think about this in a couple of different ways. Let's look at logically and evidence-based, okay? Logically, it makes more sense that the billionaire class would support the Republican Party because the Republicans' platform is a giveaway to the billionaire class. It is cutting taxes for billionaires and cutting regulations for their businesses and subsidizing their businesses. Also, we know from the data that the billionaire class supports the Republican Party more because 75% of all of their political donations goes to the Republican Party. The Republican Party loves the weakening of campaign finance laws because they benefit more from them because billionaires give them more money than they give to the Democratic Party. So yeah, Retribution is just calling me misinformation then. Okay, well, you're wrong. So you're out of here. I've got no patience today, guys. And good to see you again. Why do MAGAs accept their tax dollars being used to fund Israel's war crimes? Because they're not getting that information. No, they believe that this was happening during the Biden administration, and then it stopped once Trump was elected, because that's what they're seeing on the news. If you are somebody who continues to support this president, most likely you are just you're in an information bubble where you are not getting the accurate information about what your government is doing. Let's see here. Alex CA, should voting be mandatory in a democracy? They've actually done studies on this, and in countries where voting is mandatory, like in Australia, people tend to vote more conservative when they are forced to, which I find to be very strange. So I don't love that, but let's make voting easier. Let's make it so that there's early voting and vote by mail and vote drop-off boxes and absentee voting, and let's increase polling station locations. And that all sounds pretty good to me. Taste Spam says, do you think we're heading towards a recession? It is likely that we are heading towards a recession, Taste Spam. The economy shrank in the last quarter after, I want to say, I can't remember exactly. So I'm guessing here. I think it was something like 3 straight years of growth of the American economy, and then it shrank for the first time during the first quarter of the Trump administration. So yeah, it's likely. I think the definition of recession is like 3 straight quarters of decreased GDP or something. So yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see. We have to wait for another 6 months before we know for sure, I think. Dan Blackroyd says most democracies other than the U.S. and Canada hold elections on weekends. That's a small improvement. Yeah, I'm down for that as well. MW says, when can the bill be reversed of the if it passes? So MW, it's critical to recognize that the bill has not passed yet. There was a version that passed in the House. It got sent over to the Senate. The Senate played around with it a little bit. They passed that version, and then they just sent it back to the House. So the House has to either vote on and pass the Senate's version or change the Senate's version, and then they send it back to the Senate, and then the senators will see if they want to vote on that. So we still have a chance to stop this bill. But I do think it's important to consider what all of these Republicans have voted for. It is psychotic. These people voted to kill thousands of Americans and force thousands of Americans into poverty so that billionaires can buy another fucking gold and diamond plated back scratcher so they can have another fucking mega yacht and another fucking mega mansion and another fucking private jet. What the fuck, man? What is your problem, So yeah, I don't give a shit if the bill stops. I don't give a shit if the bill doesn't pass and we never hear from it again. They voted for that. And I am never going to forget that. And I will use every day that I have to make sure that they suffer electoral consequences for that. The Republican Party should be voted out of existence for what they have done. Alrighty, Mike Minyard says Trump is your daddy. No, he's not. Scrolling down to the bottom. Right. CA Alex CA says, "Is lobbying a necessary evil?" I don't know if it's necessary. I'm not really sure what the benefit is. Kate says, "Is there no time? There's no line too far at this point?" I mean, can you be more specific, Kate? Like, are you talking about what Republicans are doing? Like, have they no shame? Is that what you're referring to? MW says, "That's why I hate it. Just wondering if we can fix it before it's worse." Effects. 100% agree. So MW, yes. You know, there are things that American citizens can and should be doing right now. There is putting political pressure on your elected representatives, calling their offices, visiting their offices. They work for us. It is their job to listen to us, to hear us. And you know, some people might frown or poo-poo at, you know, like you seeing your senator or your House representative who just voted for the BBB at a restaurant and yelling at them. I think that's completely fine. You know, get kicked out of the restaurant. You know, so yeah, you know, but it's also about voting. It's also about organizing. It's also about educating people. It's about recruiting and convincing people. The one advantage that we have over the billionaire class is that there's a lot more of us. But we can't just use the internet to try to recruit. We have to actually do this in real life because the internet has been fully captured by the billionaire class. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. River says, "Do you think we need a new party?" I don't think we need a new party. Americans don't do great with just two choices. They get it wrong more than half of the time. So I think only a third choice would just make things even worse. I will say that I'm open to the idea of there being more parties, but until we get ranked choice voting nationally, any third party or independent party will just serve to be a spoiler candidate for one of the other two main political parties. I should also mention that Republicans currently have a House resolution that they're working on to make ranked choice voting illegal. So if you want to open up our political process, if you want ranked choice voting, then you got to vote for Democrats because they're the only party that is going to deliver that. Trump says, "Can I join call?" Absolutely not. Do you really think that I'm going to call somebody up for a good faith conversation whose avatar and name is Trump? Come on, man. Michael Sparks says, "What do you think about Elon? He's a real piece of shit. He's a liar. He's fucking high on ketamine constantly. Yeah, he's a real piece of shit. He's one of those fucking tech oligarchs that believes that he's better than everybody else and that we should all be his fucking slaves because he has money and we don't. You know." White Cheddar Max says, "Uses toddlers a human shield." That is accurate. Dan Blackwood says, "Or vote locally for third parties, but that requires grassroots work to gain traction." That is completely accurate, says Dan. I agree with you, Dan Blackroyd. Let's see here. Jacob Brady says, "I would to have a genuine convo about who's a bigger threat to democracy. I will be polite." Put a question. Prove to me that you're here in good faith, man. Put some questions in the comments, and maybe I will call you up. You know, but I don't bring people up that have not been regulars in the chat. Mayhem says, "Did the BBB pass today?" It passed in the Senate, but the Senate version is different than the House version, so it still needs to pass the House. Scott Clower says, "But his son did tell Trump to shut the fuck up." Yeah, you know, from the mouths of babes, as they say. Jacob Brady says, "Voter ID. Voter ID is a voter suppression ploy by the Republican Party. It has been proven time and time again that it's completely unnecessary because voter fraud is virtually non-existent. Also, the Republican Party has admitted that they are using it just to win elections. And if you really care about that shit, then make IDs free and make it easy to get them. Republicans have a habit of shutting down DMVs in Democratic areas and states where voter ID is law because they are trying to suppress Democratic voter turnout." Right, it's the Rocketeer over on Twitch says, "Does bombarding representatives in districts not your own have any effect?" Unfortunately, it does not. It's the Rocketeer. I was doing a thing where I was like getting in touch with people and saying like, "Hey, can I send a fax in your name?" And you know, apparently that is, you know, an okay thing to do. But I was also my parents live in Pennsylvania, and so I was saying, "Hey, I'm calling on behalf of my parents. And then after it did like 4 or 5 times, the guy on the phone was like, you should realize that that this means nothing to us because we can't verify that you are affiliated with those people whatsoever. All right, Connie from Brooklyn says, Zykes, are you spewing your BS against voter ID? I mean, what do you think is the value of voter ID, Connie from Brooklyn? You are not from Brooklyn. But yeah, man. Yeah, tell me why you think voter ID is necessary. Cade says, is what Trump just did with Israel not quid pro quo, using aid against the Netanyahu trial? 100%. Yeah. There's no two bones about it, Cade. Statue Man says, what are your opinions on anarchism? Anarchism does not help everybody. It rewards the powerful, the people that are able to survive, the people that have money to hire private security forces. It hurts marginalized communities. It's not great. All right. Slay May says the main point to a voter ID is that voting is a right and not a privilege. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Slay May. You have to have an ID because it's not because voting is not guaranteed. You know, not really sure what you mean by that. Buttsney says, why does America act as Israel's dog? Because AIPAC, which is the lobbying organization for Israel, they're extremely influential. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of sway. They can lose you your primary or lose you your election. And so that pushes a lot of politicians to, do a lot of work for Israel. Also, there are a bunch of Republicans who are currently elected who have extreme Christian views and believe that the Jews need to take over Israel to bring about the rapture and to bring about the return of Christ to this earth. And that should be a massive concern to everybody in this country, that there are Christian extremists who are working towards bringing about Armageddon so that they can be raptured up to heaven. That should be really, really concerning to you guys. Jack-o'-lantern says, I think you should support Iran. I mean, I don't support religious fundamentalism, regardless of what country it is. Slay May says, it is a right, therefore shouldn't require anything other than citizenship. Slay May, are you arguing for or against voter ID? Because it sounds like you're voting against voter ID. The Bean says, politics, I got nothing, but did you eat? I had breakfast. Jen W says, what does TikTok do to stay in Trump's good graces? So I think that Trump is scared of the Chinese. I think he's scared of TikTok because of how popular it is. I think he likes being viewed as the guy who saved TikTok because all of these bot accounts that were supporting him in the run up to the 2024 election, he thinks that they got him elected, and so he wants to be viewed positively in the world of TikTok. And he's worried that China could use their influence to try to lose him valuable elections going forward. Kate says, I was under the impression non-citizens couldn't vote. They can't. Isaac said, dude, he is not. He is not what? Slay May says, explain how it sounds that way to you, please. So if it's a right, then why do we need to prove who we are in order for us to... It doesn't matter, Slay May. Just tell me what you're thinking, Slay May. Let's see here. Isaac said, he's doing it because we like TikTok. Yeah, Isaac, that's not a question. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Alex CA said, should social media be regulated? Absolutely, it 100% should. Let's see here. Jack-o'-lantern says, so you should let Israel do what they need to do. No, I don't believe in that either. I don't believe that any nation should be able to do war crimes against other nations or their citizens. Breyer said, I stopped feeling so hopeless when we are repeating all of the worst parts of history class. Wait, that made you stop feeling hopeless? I mean, I'm glad that you're not feeling hopeless, Breyer, but I don't know why that made you stop feeling hopeless, Let's see here. The Bean says, bro, it's 3 p.m. Go eat. Not where I am, it's not. Ian E says, do you think Trump stole the election? So yes, but with an asterisk. Sometimes when people ask that question, what they mean is, were votes changed? And right now we don't have a lot of evidence that key votes were changed in order to steal the election for Trump. But the Republican Party has been stealing elections for a long time by using voter suppression tactics, misinformation, propaganda, campaign finance violations. Like, it was illegal that Elon Musk was bribing Republicans to register to vote. It was illegal that Elon Musk was sending flyers to voters' houses in swing states saying they were from the Harris administration and had a whole bunch of lies on them, but they were actually from Elon Musk HQ. It is, it is cheating and lying the way that Republicans win elections. The Electoral College, gerrymandering, voter ID laws, right-wing propaganda, the Senate map. All of these are ways that Republicans lie and cheat and steal their way into winning elections. Now, I did say that there wasn't a lot of evidence that actual votes were changed in the voting machines, but there is a little bit of evidence right now. There's a case in Rockland County which is a small enough county where basically everybody knew who everybody voted for, and they looked at the vote totals and they were like, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't say that anybody voted for this person, but I know 5 people that voted for this person. So they have a case right now in a state court in New York. It's in the discovery phase right now, so they are working on gathering more evidence, basically. And so I don't think we can jump to conclusions at this point, but I am the least skeptical that I have ever been that votes were potentially changed, and that potentially threw the election to Donald Trump. All right, Jonathan Krause over on YouTube says, it's clear you don't think Trump is a good president, but can you even name someone who would do a better job? I think if you can name anybody, Jonathan Krause, and that person would do a better job. Slay May says, what does it is a right mean to you? It means that it is something that every citizen is entitled to, I guess. Let's see here. DJ says, 4 years ago, hacking voting machines was impossible. Well, DJ, I don't know what to tell you, my man, because there was no evidence that the voting machines were hacked 4 years ago, and now there is evidence. So what are you going to do, my man? Like, if your neighbor is alive and I tell you there was no evidence that he was murdered, and then all of a sudden he's dead with a fucking knife in his chest, now there's evidence. Now there's evidence, DJ. Good Lord, I'm getting a lot of snarky people here. Slay May, what are you doing here? Are you here to engage, or are you just here to start a fight? Kate says, what is the globalization of Antifada? Genuinely. Cade, I actually don't know about that. I literally just heard about that yesterday. And there's like a whole controversy where people are trying to make Mamdani seem like he's some sort of, religious fanatic or something because he wouldn't condemn the phrase or something. So I need to read a little bit more into it. But yeah, to me, it just reeks of billionaires trying to take down somebody who's actually going to, govern for the people. B says, do you think ranked choice voting would do anything to save American democracy? I think it'd be improvement, but it's not a cure-all. We had ranked choice voting for the mayoral election when Eric Adams got elected, and ranked choice voting did not save New York from Eric Adams. Jack-O-Lantern says, the vote is private. Yes, but if you know that somebody voted for somebody, and then you get the anonymous vote totals, and it says that that person got 0 votes, then you know that something is up, Jack-O-Lantern. All right, scrolling down to the bottom, Abdi said, is the big, beautiful bill a negative for the U.S.? Yes, it is massively negative for the U.S., Abdi. Let me know if you would like me to go into more details. I would happily to. Jacob Brady says, more Democrat billionaires than Republican. That is untrue, Jacob Brady. If you would like me to prove that to you, I will. But if you're just here to call me a cuck, then just keep on not asking questions and I'll boo you. But if you ask a question in good faith, if you ask me to show you why more billionaires are for the Republican Party than opposite, then I will. Michael Sparks says, why do Donald Trump always talk about Joe Biden? Because he's always diverting attention to somebody else. He's always blaming other people. It is, it's the liar's playbook, distract, deny, divert. It's everybody's fault except for his, no matter what is going on. Josh Barnett says, what's the latest on the 5K checks coming out? I don't think it's ever going to happen. Arrow Abraham says, what do you think of the TikTok requirement of friendly language? Does it impede Americans' free speech? I don't know. It is a private company and they're allowed to have whatever rules of service they're allowed to. So I don't know. I don't really rank that as like a high First Amendment argument, the same way that I didn't rank it when conservatives claimed that their voices were being, silenced because they were not allowed to use the N-word on Twitter before, Elon Musk took it over, and now it's okay, I guess. Let's see here. Braylon Smith says, yes, details of the big, beautiful bill, please. All right, yeah, I'll give you some details. So short version, the big, beautiful bill is a massive transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. It's a reverse Robin Hood. Steal from the poor, give to the rich. It is a massive tax cut for the billionaire class and for their businesses. And at the same time, it is cutting government services for the rest of us. So our electric bills are going to go up. Our health insurance bills are going to go up. hospitals and drug treatment centers, especially in rural counties, are going to be closed for lack of funds. Fewer people are going to be able to have the Affordable Care Act and Medicare and Medicaid because they're going to be right to work requirements and all sorts of bullshit paperwork that we're going to have to fucking fill out. There are subsidies for fossil fuels, so we're going to be doing more fossil fuels, which is great because of pollution and climate change and shit like that. But not only are we cutting those subsidies for green energy, but we're also canceling green energy projects and adding additional taxes to new green energy projects. So it is a massive giveaway to the billionaire class, to fossil fuel companies. It's going to kick people off of their health insurance. It's going to make more people poor and homeless and sick and dead. That is what the big, beautiful bill will do. Josh Barnett says, when should we receive our $5,000 checks? That's not happening, Josh. It's never happening. Uber Paunan says, what does history show about the pendulum swinging back? So there is this idea of when governments go too far to the right, then they swing back to the other direction eventually. Or as I think Martin Luther King Jr. said, the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But I don't really fuck with either of those ideas because it takes away people's agency. It makes people think that we just get to sit around and wait for the moral arc of the universe to bend towards justice or the pendulum to swing from right-wing crazy shit to better left-wing stuff. There are plenty of governments that have remained dictatorships for a very, very long time without the pendulum swinging back. So I agree that there are some hopeful signs, potentially, like there have been a bunch of Democratic wins in special elections in red districts that nobody would have predicted. Polling is showing, positives for voting Republicans out of office, but that does not mean that we get to do no work. That does not mean that somebody is going to save us from this. We are the ones that are going to have to do the work. We are the ones that are going to have to talk to people in real life and make sure that they're not eating whatever right-wing propaganda is being spewed at them from their social media channels. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Dave Saves says, Horseshoe Theory is ignorant. Yeah, I'm not really down with Horseshoe Theory. World Famous Scoot says, what's your favorite Dark Souls build? I have not played that game. Let's see here. Ms. Kelly 420 says, hospitals are already closing or closing, and I live 5 minutes outside of Philadelphia. Yeah, that is it's a fucking tragedy, Ms. Kelly, and I'm pissed off for you. Breyer said, is there any truth to the age 7 dependent limit in the big, beautiful bill? That they're changing dependents to stop at age 7 as opposed to stopping at 18 or 25 or something. I remember hearing about that. I haven't heard anything recent about it, so I wonder if it even survived like the House version of the bill. It's possible that it did because the House, now that they just got back the bill, they're like, this is even worse than the one that we sent over to you guys. So, yeah, so I'm not sure is the answer. I'm not sure. Sorry about that, Briar. I'll give it a Google if I remember. Sean Cook says, please explain why MAGA is so evil and ignorant. So, Sean Cook, I just want to be clear about something. There's a difference between MAGA and MAGA voters. There's a difference between Republican politicians, Republican talking heads, and Republican voters. We should have radical empathy for every voter, whether they are left, right, or center, whether they didn't vote because they're cynical or their vote is being suppressed, or whether they are activists, and are fully engaged in politics. But my empathy ends where the power structure begins. So the billionaire class, elected Republican politicians, Republican talking heads who make fucking bank spreading lies and bullshit and hate over the internet, your fucking Ben Shapiro's, your fucking Charlie Kirk's, your fucking Tucker Carlson's. My empathy is I have zero for those guys. So you want to talk about people being evil and ignorant? Yeah, I will 100% talk about the politicians, the billionaires, and the talking heads. But the voters, we need to have radical empathy for, because there but for the grace of God go I. If you were born into that family, reading that newspaper, going to that church, watching that Facebook, then maybe you would be convinced by that stuff also. All right, Sean Cook says, I have empathy. That's why I asked why are they evil, because they love those people you're talking about. Again, Sean Cook, there are lots of different people who vote Republican. Some of them are terrible billionaires, some of them are racist, and some of them just got tricked. And some of them are just part of a information bubble that does not tell them that what they are doing is hurting people. JP Hanley says, rebound hitting all-time highs. Inflation is down, and there are so many businesses being built here. JP Hanley, you should get your news from other sources because nothing you just said was accurate. Sean Cook says, okay, if you say so. I mean, I just think it's more productive, Sean Cook, because otherwise we just end up fighting voters as opposed to fighting the billionaires. I don't want to fight voters. I want to fight Republican politicians and Tucker Carlson. Let's see here. Scott says Tucker did not cruise down a few pegs. I still hate him. Yeah, I think he's just probably just trying to paint himself as a reasonable populist so that he can run for president or some shit. But it also double pissed me off because I was like, oh, you can be a good reporter when you want to? Oh, that's interesting. How about that? Oh, excuse me. Nina says, any chance the House will vote no? Yes, there is a chance, and the chance goes up. The percentage that it could happen goes up. The more people do the work, the more people call their reps, the more people go to their reps' offices, the more that people talk to their friends and their family and their neighbors and their coworkers. You'd be surprised how many people don't know what is in the BBB. You would be surprised how many people don't know what their representatives just voted to accomplish. Just voted to fuck them over so that billionaires can have one more fucking lobster dinner to fucking throw in the garbage. Jack O'Lantern says House will pass the bill. You don't know that, Jack. You know, that is a prediction that no human being can make. Let's see here. Tamu says, seems like nothing is working. It seems that way until it does, Tamu. It's not, sometimes we don't see the effect of our efforts. You guys watch Andor? Anybody on here a fan of Andor? Because there will be times when the struggle seems impossible. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this, freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the front line of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. So there you go. Moniker says the Congress and Senate are on TV and TikTok. You can learn a lot by watching. That's true, but I mean, you're also just going to watch a lot of Republicans make shit up and do a whole bunch of lines and stuff. Let's see here. R.I.P. Nemec says it's the Rocketeer. Yep, he lives on in our hearts. Jonathan Krause, I'm thinking of becoming a conservative billionaire, but I worry that my voice will be silenced as a result. Should I pursue it anyway? Yeah, if you want me to hate you, then yeah, 100%. And I'm halfway there already, John. Donna K. Hill Lewis says, that's your problem. You believe Dems even after there's facts and proof on Dem corruption. Donna, there's a difference, though. The Democratic corruption is different than the Republican corruption. There are individual Democrats that are corrupt, but the Republican Party is corrupt. The head of the Republican Party is corrupt. The platform of the Republican Party is corrupt. When we have corrupt members of the Democratic Party, we exercise them. Senator Menendez, gone, on his way to jail. When you have corrupt members of the Republican Party, they literally make him president of the United States. They put him fucking in charge of everything. Jen W says, Hakeem Jeffries is also corrupt. I have seen no evidence of that. My biggest complaint about Hakeem Jeffries is that he's a little bit feckless and kind of corny when he talks. But he's still better than every Republican. Tyler Hamline says, who do I call? Tyler, you got 2 senators and you got 1 House representative in the, federally. Call them. Call them every day. Start a political action group so that you and 5 of your buddies are all calling every fucking day. All right. Dave Odd says Trump literally pardons corrupt Democrats. Dave Odd, what are you talking about? That is, I've never. Oh, you're talking about Eric Adams? Yeah, Eric Adams is corrupt, man. Again, you're not. You know what? I'm done with you. I've got 0 patience today. See you later, buddy. Breyer says every representative that takes money from AIPAC is complicit in what's happening in Gaza. Breyer, I don't think that kind of generalization is positive. There are better politicians and there are worse politicians. There are good politicians that take money from AIPAC. There are good politicians that are worried about pissing off AIPAC. There are bad politicians that don't take money from AIPAC. So, let's not, it doesn't do anybody any good to be, dogmatic about this stuff. Arrow Abraham says, H. Jeffries is bought and paid for spineless. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, Arrow. I have not seen any evidence that is the case. Lindsay Reed says, watch Drogo run again for hope, LOL. Yeah, I do that too. Tyler Hamline says there's just way worse Republicans ones, not all, but way more. I'm going to say every Republican is way worse, Tyler, because every Republican, even the best Republican, still is going for trickle down economics. Like, that's their whole fucking thing, is let's give more money to the billionaire class. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? These guys don't have it good enough. Are you fucking serious? They're sitting on fucking hundreds of billions of dollars while people are fucking starving on the street, living in fucking tents. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? So yeah, there's better Republicans and worse Republicans, but in my opinion, every Republican is worse than every Democrat. Zay Miruka says, hello, I don't know what's happening in the USA. Is Elon still in politics? Can you tell me a little what's new in Tesla? Tesla stock is crashing. Elon Musk is still a piece of shit who's trying to stay involved in American politics. I guess he's angry at Trump right now for something. So now he's, taking pot shots at him on social media and saying that he's going to primary every Republican that voted for the BBB. But as soon as it is more worthwhile for him to S Trump's D, he will go back to doing that. CA says, where did you study politics? Just by myself. I didn't go to school for it or anything like that. Jack O'Lantern says, what have the Dems done for the homeless? Oh my God, lots of things. They have brought down housing costs. They have increased the minimum wage. They have funded homeless outreach programs. There's oh my God, like so many things. It's stunning to me that you would think that they haven't. Moniker says, why would you say we started heading this way around the Reagan administration? I think the Reagan administration was a big piece of the pie, but there were moves that were happening before Reagan. Read the book Dark Money by Jane Mayer, because it is stunning how massive the campaign to fuck over the poor in this country has been, and for how long it has been going on. Let's see here. Braylon Smith says, what have Republicans done for the homeless? Zip. Becca Wow says they support SNAP benefits and Medicaid. That is accurate as well. NO says, why do Trump supporters and those who support the rich lack critical thinking? NO, again, I'm gonna advocate for you to not take pot shots at voters. Like if you were born into that family, go into that church, maybe you would believe the things coming out of Fox News as well. Maybe you would believe the random conspiracy theories on Facebook, So yeah, let's be clear about who we are targeting here with our rhetoric. We are targeting the billionaire class. We are saying that these people need to be fucking taxed till they are only 100 millionaires. We are targeting Republican politicians who are working with the billionaire class. Let us vote them out of fucking existence. Let us not reward them with a single day in office more than they have already gotten. Alrighty. The gingerbread lady says, heard anything about 2028 potentials? Yeah, there's smatterings, but I'm not really, interested in, dream casting, wish casting my presidential nominees. When we've got the midterms coming up in 2026, we got to get everybody laser focused on the fucking 2026 midterms, Breyer says, you don't have to support Israel to succeed as a left-wing politician. Mamdani is a prime example. Breyer, for every Mamdani you can show me, I will show you 5 politicians who got fucking exorcised by AIPAC, both left, right, and center. So the threat is real, and I'm pleased as punch. I am tickled. I am so fucking grateful that great politicians like Mamdani are able to break through and fight against the AIPAC machine, but that does not mean that every politician has the ability to do that. Not everybody has the coffers or the spread or gas in the tank or the youth vote appeal in order to fight back against AIPAC. All right, scrolling down to the bottom, Eru Abraham says, I hope everyone in this live that can vote does vote. I hope so too. User a bunch of numbers says, do you really think there will be fair elections in the midterms? Yes, I do, user. So here's the thing. We know from elections that have happened since 2024 that the Republican Party has not fully captured our electoral system. There have been a bunch of Democratic wins in special elections, in state Supreme Court races, and stuff like that. Now, does that mean that the Republican Party isn't going to try and lie and steal and cheat their way into winning in 2026? Absolutely. They are going to do it. They are devious and sinister people who only care about winning and accumulating money and power. That just means that we have to work harder. That means that we have to convince more people, we have to recruit more people, and we have to be on top of our voting information. Make sure that we have whatever documents they need, make sure that our vote was received, make sure that it was counted, make sure they didn't purge us because they didn't like our signatures or some fucking bullshit. It's going to take work. You know, but the more work that we do, the less work we have to do in the future. The more people that do this work, the less work that everybody else has to do. Alrighty, let's see here. Breyer says Democratic Party has had the easiest route to power of all time, but they hate the working class people. Breyer, if you don't start asking questions, I'm going to boot you because I am done with your cynical fucking bullshit on my live stream. I don't have a lot of patience today, guys. I don't know if you can fucking tell. For some reason, I guess the news just really rubbed me the wrong way today. But yeah, you know, it is completely inaccurate what you're saying, Breyer. The deck has been so thoroughly stacked against the Democratic Party for decades that now we just all assume that they're a bunch of fucking Three Stooges, you know, bumbling imbeciles. And forgetting the fact that the Republican Party has more money, they have more electoral advantages with gerrymandering, the Senate map, the Electoral College. They have more information capture in right-wing propaganda, in mainstream news, in news, in social media, and in sinister back-channel ways, in dark money ways that you don't even fucking know about, you know? So yeah, you can miss me with that taking pot shots at the Democratic Party thing. And again, if you don't ask a question, your next comment, Breyer, you're out of here. Zach O'Brien says, I just think the bipartisan good cop, bad cop game has run its course. We need a new system completely. Zach O'Brien, I completely disagree with that. There are vastly different outcomes when Democrats are in charge versus when Republicans are in charge. You are looking at what happens when a Democratic Party has every gun of the billionaire class trained on them for decades. And let's see what happens when that's not the case. Let's see what happens when people actually do the work to elect better over worse. Because I don't think about this just as electing the Democratic platform, which I'm for. Like, I think it's a good platform, the Democratic platform. You know, perfect? No. Are their politicians perfect? No. But way, way better. That is true. But also as a vote against the Republican Party. Why are we doing the Republican Party a favor by talking trash about the Democratic Party when they have done so much less evil shit than the Republican Party? We should be laser focused on unelecting every Republican and not picking nits around the Democratic Party, you know? Alrighty. Sorry again for my tone today, everybody. I try to be cooler than this, but yeah, the news has really rubbed me the wrong way today. All right, about blank says, how will we come back from the loss of the Supreme Court and the recent rulings? We've lost checks and balances. So yeah, it will be a struggle about blank 100%. They're making the authoritarian power grab of the Republican Party easier. And they are making the creation and maintenance of a police state easier. And they're making corruption easier. But power still lies in the hands of the people. We outnumber them by like 1 billion to 1. And if we do the work of organizing, of putting political pressure on our elected representatives, of striking, of boycotting, of talking to the people that we know, of recruiting them, of organizing them, then we win. It just happens every single fucking time. 3.5% of the population gets activated in non-violent resistance, they win. It's happened every time in history. But yeah, it's going to be harder. 100% is going to be harder. That just means more work for us to do. That's the reason why I tried to get Democrats elected in 2024, because I did not want to be doing this work right now. But a bunch of people didn't vote, and a bunch of people voted for Republicans. So now I got to do this. Alrighty, the Bass Panda says, why are blue states shit if their policies are so much better? They're not. Quality of life is better in blue states. Healthcare outcomes are better in blue states. Education is better in blue states. It's more expensive to live in blue states because everybody wants to live here. The Bass Panda. Susan W. Gin, Texas says, do you know what's going on with the walls going up around White House right now? Seems ominous. I have not read anything about that, so I don't know if that's a real thing, Susan. So I would just say double check that information just in case you got on the internet. You guys remember the internet is the Wild West, all right? So there's no rules, there's no verification. You got to double check your information with multiple sources. Scott Clower says blue states are the welfare queens. I think you mean red states, Scott. I know you're a regular. You're one of the good guys. So let's see here. About blank says I don't think it's possible. I think the recent rulings are the end. So a couple things about blank. Number one, before I try to convince you that it's not over, that it's not hopeless. Let me just remind you that you being hopeless, that you giving up, that you think that resistance is futile, is exactly what the fucking Republican Party wants. It is exactly what the billionaire class wants. It is exactly what fucking Clarence Thomas and Alito and Barrett and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, they fucking want you to think that resistance is hopeless and to throw your hands up in the air because you just don't fucking care anymore. And so I say, fuck those people. Fuck them. I am not going to give them the gift of my hopelessness. I'm not going to give them the gift of my cynicism. You want me to think resistance is futile? You fucking kiss my butthole, you weird ass fucking dorks. Not you. I'm talking about Clarence Thomas and his ilk. You know. So yeah, you know, and if you want to know more about this, you should Google a woman named Erica Chenoweth. She is a political science researcher and professor who has done the work on resistance movements and which ones are successful and which ones are not. And based on my digging into her information, we are very much not lost. That there's still, we are still on the field. The play is still happening. We might be, you know, at our fucking, you know, we're trying to struggle for the you know, it's, you know, the bottom of the eighth and we're down by 10, you know, but it's, you know, we're still in the game here. Yeah, Lauren, I am really saucy today. You called that accurate. Electrician Life says, then why does Michigan, as a blue state governor, have the worst unemployment? I don't know if that's accurate, Electrician Life. You know, there are a lot of misleading statistics around blue states. It's really easy to cherry pick ones to make it seem like if you want to prove your point that blue states are worse or that Democrats are worse. But by and large, blue states have better quality of life, better healthcare outcomes, better life expectancy, better education, you know, safer food, cleaner water, you know, just all that good shit. Alrighty, let's see here. It's me, Gail says, is it true that the bill makes it legal for Trump to cancel elections? No, that is not in any version of the bill that I have seen or any reporting on the bill that I have seen. If that was in the bill when it went to the Senate, it has gotten struck down. There's a thing called the Byrd Rule that says that if you want to use reconciliation to pass something in the Senate to avoid a filibuster, it has to only have to do with spending and economic issues and whatnot. And giving Trump the power to cancel elections is very much not that. Lemmy Gardenmeister says highest unemployment is Nevada at 5.5%. Yeah, so look it up, Electrician Life. Electrician Life, you got people in the chat here who are saying that the thing that you just said is inaccurate. So are you here to spread misinformation? Are you open to learning new things? Are you here to engage in good faith, or do I have to block you? All right. AZ Vocal Local says, remember when Trump said he wouldn't pass another spending omnibus? Promises made. Yeah, I remember when he said he was going to solve inflation and he was going to solve the war in Ukraine and the war in Israel in one day, and it's already 6 months later. So there we go. Oof. Alrighty, scrolling in here. Lindsay Reed says, why is SCOTUS giving up power? Because if they're on team whoever's in power, then they get to do whatever they want, you know? So there you go. Let's see here. Jesse Lynn says, do you think there will be midterms? Yes, there will be. 100%, Jesse. There will be midterm elections. And says, do you think Trump would have lost 2024 if someone else was running against him instead of Kamala? Probably not. The issue, I think, was that Kamala only had 100 days to mount her campaign, when people usually plan for over a year to run for president. I think give me Kamala Harris with a full year to run, and, you know, we win that election hands down. Braylon Smith says, how much damage do you think Trump will do in this country and how long to fix it? It's going to be a lot. It's going to be incalculable. A lot of people are going to die, both here and abroad. Braylon Smith. The good news is that the more people that do the work to fix it, the less amount of time it will take to fix it. But if we can mobilize America to reject the Republican Party and to lend a hand in rebuilding this country when he and every other Republican is out of office, then we can be back on our feet in no time. Let's see here. Okay. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the TikTok messages. The Bass Panda says, but her laugh was so weird. I don't give a shit. Damn Jason says, will the big beautiful bill affect everyone? Yes, it will. It will make rich people richer. It'll make everybody else poorer. It will increase diseases and poor healthcare outcomes. It's going to make electricity more expensive. There'll be more brownouts. There'll be worse pollution and climate change. Yeah, it's going to be bad for everybody. Mark Peter Pedersen says, can NYC survive a $30 minimum wage? Not only will they survive, I believe they will thrive, Mark. Queenager says, do you believe Trump actually did win? What about the recounts? So he did win, but I am curious to see how the Rockland County case is going to shake out. I'm not jumping to conclusions, but I am interested in seeing how things go. You know, I want to wait and see how discovery turns out. And yeah. But all the available data says that he won the election at the moment. But, you know, we'll see how the case goes. Anna G says Republicans just straight up trying to kill off their constituents again. Yep, completely agree with that. Becca Wow says, if the thing people like least about Kamala is her laugh, I'm okay with that. Completely agree with that. And O says, why do some people believe that raising the minimum wage to $30 would make things more pricier? Is it true? So there are a lot of propaganda narratives that rich people put out in order to dissuade people from putting regulations on their businesses. Oh, if you force me to make sure that all the chemical runoff from my factory is clean, that's going to increase cost of goods, and everybody's grocery bills are going to go up and shit like that. Oh, you're going to make me give benefits to my employees? Well, I'm going to have to raise prices on everything. Oh, $30 minimum wage? I'm going to have to close my factory, and then everybody's going to lose their job. I'm going to move to Florida, so you're not going to get any of my tax revenue if you raise my taxes, shit like that. But it's all bullshit. Like, we know this. This has happened time and time again throughout history. When unions get wins, it just helps. Like, there's no like knock-on effects. There's no organic knock-on effects. So yeah, billionaires have been spending a lot of time convincing people that if you raise the minimum wage to $30, then businesses are going to go out of business, and you know, we're all going to have to raise prices to make up for it and shit like that. We just know that it's not true. It is inaccurate. Maybe they'll go up like a little bit, you know, but the difference between the price of a hamburger in California, which has a higher minimum wage than in Arkansas, is like, I don't know, 70 cents or something, some shit like that. Let's see here. Period says, will the bill benefit the middle class? No, it will literally only benefit the billionaire class and fossil fuel companies. That is all that it will benefit. Alrighty, let's see here. And O says, why are they so selfish? I don't get it. They're sick. The billionaire class is sick. They have the greed disease. They have the fucking, you know, people, we talk about billionaires as having the Midas touch, like that's a good thing. The fucking story of the Midas touch was that it was a curse that ruined his fucking life. But we're out there saying like, this guy's got the Midas touch. Everything he turns to gold. It's like, yeah, that's a fucking problem. He's got a fucking greed addiction. He's got a fucking money addiction. So he doesn't give a shit how many people he fucking kills so he can get a penny richer. Alrighty. Let's see here. AZ Vocal Local said, since he wasn't held accountable for January 6th, do you think there's anything he can do that's impeachable? AZ Vocal, he's already done dozens of things that are impeachable. It's just that because Republicans are in charge of the House, there's not going to be an impeachment hearing. There's not going to be a vote on impeachment that's actually going to pass. Now, Democrats are poised to win the midterm elections, and I don't think that that should comfort anybody. I think that we should all continue doing the work and try to get more seats in the House and more seats in the Senate and put more political pressure on people that are currently elected. But yeah, you know, if and when Democrats retake the House, then 100% Trump is getting impeached again. Now, will we have enough seats in the Senate to remove him from office? Because impeachment is a two-step process. It has to happen in the House, and if it passes the House, then that president is impeached. But does he get removed from office? That happens in the Senate afterwards, and you need 2/3 of a vote, so 67 seats for that to happen. Becca Wow says, even if they find fraud, they can't overturn the election, but maybe we can fix it for the future. Completely agree with that, Becca Wow. Dan Blackroids, for the first time ever, I'm hoping for Clarence Thomas's continued good health. I mean, I wouldn't bank on it. He'll probably just retire, and Trump can replace him with somebody even shittier. Surf says impeachment is a complete waste of time and money. Well, what do you think we should do if the president does things that are wildly illegal and corrupt, Surf? What do you think? You think we just let him do it because it would be a waste of time and money, as you put it, Surf? Let's see here. Sunshine Sammy says we shouldn't rely on a House or Senate to save us or the court system. Completely agree, Sunshine Sammy. That's why we got to do the work. We got to do the work of unelecting every Republican, of electing Democrats to every one of their seats, to punish the Republican Party for putting us through this fucking bullshit, for all the lies, for all the corruption, for fucking all of it, man, for threatening our fucking lives. Alrighty. Braylon Smith says, why does my dad favor this bill? Say it will help him with taxes. My guess, Braylon, is that your dad is not getting his news from accurate sources. Let's see here. Surf says, how MAGA saved America. What the hell does that mean? Surf, you didn't answer my question, buddy. So guess what? You are out of here. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. No one will miss you. Anna G says, also just getting all the boomers out. They've dominated every branch of the industry for 40 years. Yeah, I'm down with generational change. Mark Peterson says, half of Canada going to move to New York for that money, LOL. I don't know what you mean by that. You know, Canada hates America right now. I don't see them moving to America anytime soon. Carmine says, tips on breaking the ice while doing the work. I guess just doing more listening than than speaking. You know, just like, hey, I want to know what you think. I want to know what I want to know where you're at politically. Where do you get your information from? What's important to you? What are the things that you want to get fixed? You know. All right, everybody. Rayon over on Twitch. Good to see you again, my man. But you are catching me at the very end of my live stream. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for all the gifts and the likes and the shares and all of the comments and the questions. Mark Peterson says that's a high middle class income, $30 an hour for Canadians. PhDs make less than that. Yeah, but if Canadians come here, then they will potentially be thrown into a fucking concentration camp by the Trump administration. So I think they'll probably rather stay in Canada. That's my guess. All right. It is your support. It is your, liking and sharing and asking questions that makes it possible for me to do this live stream. And I really appreciate it, everybody. If there were questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream that you want answered or that you think of later, my DMs are open. You can also email me through my website. You can also hit me up through my Discord. I love the Discord as a place where you can go and look up what work that you can do, whether you are able-bodied or not, whether you are busy or not. There is stuff that everybody can do. And so go there, check out the thread called The Work, and please do it. Please do the work and recruit other people to do the work as well. And there's also recommendations for books and podcasts and stuff like that. And my normal streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. I'm going to be taking off Thursday and Friday this week because it's my wife's birthday. Other than that, though, you can check out my schedule on my website, jaredbernstein.com. And if you want to support financially, you can, but you don't have to. I have a Patreon that you can join. I've got 4 subscribers. They're lonely. I got a store that you can buy things from, and you can send gifts and subscribe on Twitch and TikTok and YouTube and all that good shit. But yeah, just lastly, I want to thank you guys for being here, and please do the work. Please do the work. You know, my average viewership is like around 150 people per stream. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And I don't know. I don't know what you guys are up to. I don't know if you guys are actually out there doing the work. I don't know if you guys are just watching because you like listening to political rants and stuff like that. But I hope that you are all out there actually doing something, because watching my show is not enough, you know? Let's see here. Dan Blackbird says, did you say they're lonely? I said they're lonely because there's only 4 of them. You know, like they need friends in the Patreon, you know? All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. See you tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Again, the show tomorrow is going to be the last one of the week because I'm celebrating my wife's birthday. Be good to yourselves, everybody. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys here tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.